and thanks for sharing a little bit of time with us today as we get into the next session of Inside the SAB with Mr. Mark Lowman. And the topic today is NeoLife tablets, those high technology tablets, and how they are dramatically different than anything else that you will encounter in the marketplace. Mark has been with NeoLife for 26 years. I've known him for a long time. He started working with me way back, and we've done a lot of things over the years. He's the International Director of Product Development and Quality and a very important member of the Scientific Advisory Board. He has a background in biological sciences and a very deep understanding of pharmacy and manufacturing, which makes him one of the best possible candidates you could have for talking about the amazing difference in NeoLife tablet technology. So, hi there, Mark. How you doing? I've been looking forward to this.
Hi, John. Hi, everybody. Yeah, thanks for this opportunity. This is really great. You know, we had our first chat and conversation early in 1995. And I remember it well, just like it was just maybe last week or the week before. And one of the things that I like, John, in our discussions is I always learn something. So you've been a very good teacher and mentor over the years. I appreciate this time with you to be able to chat about this subject.
So let's take another look here. You know, let's take a look at how all this gets done real quickly. All right. So when the SAB comes up with some crazy thing that we want to extract, okay, and we want to get sort of something out of the skin of grapes or whatever it might be. And this ingredient that we want to deliver has got a certain biomarker in it that determines its potency. So not only are we just extracting those compounds from the grape skin, but we are establishing often milligram or sometimes even microgram standards for how much has to appear in every tablet. And on top of that, where it's going to get delivered. So often these are challenges that haven't come up before. I know in much of the work that we've done in the research community, when we go out to investigate an ingredient or a nutrient in whole foods, very often we find that the ability to investigate that is very limited, that we actually have to pioneer the analytical procedures to get the job done, as well as figure out how to do the technology to extract it. So, you know, often it's something that's never before been done. So what do we do? How do we get that done from sort of a step-by-step process? How do we get from a crazy idea that the SAB has into a tablet that delivers something to the gastrointestinal tract, wherever it needs to be in the body, and provides that powerful benefit that we know that nutrient has?
Well, you know, when the project guideline or the product guideline comes from the SAB down to the development team, you know, it always presents a challenge. But, you know, like I said, we thrive on that. We enjoy these challenges. And I was going to start by saying, well, John, it begins in the product development laboratory, but actually it begins before that, because what we have is a series, a limited number of qualified suppliers of these types of compounds that we work with, that we've audited and we've qualified. And it's a small team of these suppliers that are uniquely qualified to supply us with these nutritional, whether it's extracts or elements that go into our product. And it's these types of folks, it's these types of testing, that it's good to have this type of core that we work with intimately, because like you say, we may come up with an extract that the research has shown is going to be beneficial, whether it's an extract from grapes or an extract of some other type of food, whole food ingredient. We may have to work with the supplier on the extraction technique so that the elements that we're looking for are preserved and not degraded in whatever processes that we develop. So anyway, from them, okay, then we get our ingredients that we want to start working with in the product development laboratory, and it all starts what we call the benchtop development, because we're working on the lab bench here.
Mm-hmm.
And the first steps, we get the raw material in and we do a lot of analysis. And again, these are from our pre-qualified suppliers. So we know that the quality's going to be there more so than if we just go off to some shelf and grab something somewhere. But we still, we need to analyze these things. We test them. We test for nutritional levels. And like you said, we may have to develop the analytical methods to do this. Very often, what we're using are ingredients that haven't been used before anywhere else. And beyond that, these nutritional compounds haven't been used or tested before. So you can't just go to a laboratory and just say, well, test this for X, Y, Z. We may have to develop the methods ourselves. On top of that, of course, you got the chemical and nutritional properties, but we're also looking at the physical properties of the ingredient. Is it a powder? Is it granular? What's the particle size distribution? Are we going to have to adjust the size, adjust the particle size distribution to help make a tablet? Are we going to have to do some milling or some granulating? So all that physical nature comes into play as well. We also check for the stability of the ingredient. In other words, is this ingredient light sensitive? Is it going to degrade within light? Because that implies then the active nutritional components are degrading. Is it stable to heat? Is it stable to moisture, humidity? So we really have to dig in, and because that's going to go to the final quality of the tablet itself.
Yeah, for sure.
We also, when we make these formulas, it's not just one ingredient. There's a lot of different, a variety of nutritional ingredients. So we have to test whether these things are going to interact with each other in a negative way, because we don't want that to happen in the tablet, because that will negatively affect maybe the shelf life, maybe the actual integrity of the tablet. It's certainly going to be affecting what nutrients we're going to be delivering. One of the things about also using our pre-qualified, our team of suppliers, is that any potential contaminants that may exist are greatly, greatly minimized. But we still test these ingredients for any potential contaminant, whether it's heavy metals or pesticides. But we have to do the due diligence, because we have to learn everything there is to know about that ingredient before we start formulating. Then, of course, once we learn everything there is to know about our ingredients, we have to select what tableting aids we're going to use. And that is all dependent upon what form the tablet is going to take. Whether it's going to be immediately released or slow released. Again, we're going to be doing compatibility studies, because the tableting aids, we certainly don't want them to negatively affect the active compounds. They have to be stable. And we have to make sure that these are going to be functionality, the functionality is there. Then once we have, okay, we've got this set of active ingredients, nutritional compounds, we've got our set of tableting aids that we believe are going to work. Then we have to select the appropriate tools, the tableting tools themselves. Is it going to be a large tablet, a small tablet? What's the best way to do this? Is it going to be round? I mean, it all affects the performance of the final tableted product.
Right.
Then, once we've done through all of that, a lot of the testing involved there, only then do we start making what we call benchtop samples, maybe 5 or 10 tablets, maybe up to 100 tablets. And then we can take those as samples, take them over to the SAB. They're the qualifiers.
Cool. Yeah. The process, very diligent, as all of our processes are, takes us a long time to develop these things. The idea of developing, making a product, first you come up with an idea, then you come up with some theoretical things that you want to work with, and then you try it on what I call benchtop development, as we just talked about, trying to end up with something that meets our criteria. There's a lot of testing that goes on. The first time you put these things together is essentially never the only time you do it. You do it over and over and over, because as you make each sample, you have to go through this challenge and challenge and challenge, heat stability, temperature, how temperature affects it, moisture affects it, how light affects it, how the integrity of the tablet remains, and it goes on and on and on. For the sake of time, I want to jump forward a little bit here, Mark, and talk about our artificial stomach and the role that it plays in research and development of products. We have been using the artificial stomach now for many, many, many years. It was a very early a sort of a research tool for us back long as I can remember, back into the 70s. Again, well before that sort of technology was widespread anywhere. And even today, it's still not maybe as widespread as it should be. But it's something that we use all the time, because the artificial stomach allows us to get control over those features of that tablet. So when we put something together, we can actually look at and very directly mimic what's going to happen when the person consumes that. Is it going to break down? I know a lot of our tablets are designed for immediate release. And immediate for us can be a matter of minutes after it reaches the stomach, because we want that material to be there and break down, have the tablet disintegrate and then dissolve and then disperse, the basis of our 3D technology. So tell us about the role of the artificial stomach here, if you will, in this development process, and how it makes NeoLife products, NeoLife tablets stand out.
So in the, as I mentioned, we take samples to the SAB. If they give their blessing, and then, this is conforming to the project and to the guidelines that they've developed. So we do further testing. This is where we bring then, of course, the QC team in, and they do a lot of lab analysis, like you were alluding to, the testing and stability challenges. And we're looking at all the different aspects of the physical and chemical aspects of the tablet. And then here's where, we as a development team, we bring in the artificial stomach, as it's called. And it's a really great tool. It's a NeoLife developed technology decades and decades ago, utilized before other companies were actually even thinking that this was an important aspect of development. You need to develop a tablet that releases where it's supposed to, But at this point, yes, John, you're right. We start looking at the release profile using our artificial stomach, and that simulates the stomach environment with the simulated gastric, so it's highly acidic, and also the peristalsis simulated movement of the stomach, because that also acts upon the tablet itself. And so we validate and verify immediately released tablets that disintegrate within minutes in the stomach. We can see that, we watch it. If it's going to be a delayed release, like a targeted delivery type of release and disintegration, we can watch that. It's got to survive through the stomach environment for an hour. If it's a sustained release, we watch that too. It starts to disintegrate in the stomach, but it has to move into the intestinal environment and meter itself out over 8 hours. So this is really a critical tool in designing in the proper disintegration, dissolution, dispersion of the nutrients. So this is the time where we employ that NeoLife technology.
Yeah.
I want to just say real quick though, John, there's different NeoLife technologies and expertise employed throughout the whole tablet development process. So it's not just we have this one NeoLife technology. There's a lot of different processes that we've developed over time. But that's probably for a different discussion.
Yeah, well, I think if we, at the risk of disclosing any trade secrets, I don't think we want to go too deep into some of the technologies that we apply here and how we get it done, because there's a lot of people out there that would be interested in knowing those little tricks. We have a reputation in both the scientific community and the academic community, the regulatory community, and the industry in general of being the company with great product quality. So, and that's based on technology that is hard to come by, comes from decades, literally, of pushing the envelope, trying to find ways to do things when, as we started out talking about, when it seemed impossible at the beginning, and we end up finding a way to get that done. It's just one of the hallmarks of the company, if you will. The artificial stomach, that sort of technology, I guess it's around today. There's some USP standards and things like that that do that sort of thing. But again, what people don't realize is this is something that we've had in practice for 40 years now that we've been having this technology. We've updated it over time. When we first developed the artificial stomach, it wasn't like you could go buy one. You actually had to make your own. So we made the technology in our laboratory, and over time we refined it and developed it and made it better and better and better. So those sorts of things separate NeoLife from all the others out there. It's not just the ingredients, and it's not just the tableting aids, in this case, talking about tablets. It's the technology behind it. It's all the things we do. And then on top of that, it is a rigorous quality control procedure. I know when we manufacture these tablets, that it's like a pharmacy. It's like they're made to drug standards. There's this process of identifying a batch sheet and then weighing out the ingredients and confirming that, and then mixing them together the right way and putting those into quarantine until it's confirmed that everything is in that, and then releasing it to the tableting department where it's made into tablets, and they're put into quarantine until it's released by quality control, in which case they move on to the packaging department, where after they package it, guess what? It's put into quarantine again until we can validate that end product meets all those criteria. And then even after that, we will retain samples for years and go back and put them into the artificial stomach and see, hey, what does this look like 2 years downstream? And I think that desire, that demand that we have to know not only what's in our products, but how they're going to perform when they're in our bodies, when they're consumed, this really set us apart and establishes a level of technology that most people don't realize. Most companies, I don't think, and I can't speak for every one of them, but most of them sort of assume things are going to happen the way they're supposed to. But, that's not something that we've ever done. So, the artificial stomach is a big step in that direction. And what I find sort of intriguing now is I know we've gone beyond just the artificial stomach, and we now have what I'll call an artificial intestine. So, because we like to know what goes on when they get in there too. So can you just give us a little glimpse of that? I don't want to get, again, displaying any or just distributing any trade secrets here, but give us a little look into that element of our development these days.
Right. So, John, we as you said, we've used the artificial stomach for decades, and it was just a natural progression to develop the artificial intestine because, when we're developing products, we are designing quality in.
Yeah.
When we get to the point where we have a tablet formula, we know everything there is to know about the active ingredients. We know everything there is to know about the functionality of the tableting aids and how that's going to function within the formula. And we also know how stable the product is. We've tested for real time, or we've pushed the envelope a bit with accelerated testing with high heat and humidity. And we also know then about how the tablet's going to perform within your GI system. And that's the artificial stomach and the natural progression we develop the artificial intestine. So that helps us especially to understand and develop the sustained release products like Super B and Super C, because we watch these tablets in the artificial stomach. They will start to release nutrients. We test that release of nutrients by periodically taking samples and testing them in the laboratory. After the appropriate period of time, typically 60 minutes, these things then move into the artificial intestine. That is an environment very similar to the human intestine in terms of the pH. It's a bit more alkaline than the stomach. We've adjusted for that intestinal pH. We also have its own different sort of peristaltic movement so that the tablets are subjected to the type of movements that they would find in the intestines. And pulling samples periodically where we develop the release profile of the nutrients so that we know just how the nutrients will release in that slow fashion so that it's more bioavailable.
Right.
Also, though, that is also helpful to us in our garlic, enzyme, these sort of delayed release, intestinally targeted release products, so that in that gastric environment, 60-minute survival, we set the standard at 60 minutes because food typically will pass the stomach in an hour, so or less. We set it at the outside end, 60 minutes. Those tablets are like rocks. I mean, they will not degrade in that gastric environment.
Mm-hmm.
Once we move them into the intestinal environment, here I'm talking about those intestine targeted like garlic, that change in pH, because of the type of tableting aids that we use, that change in pH changes sort of the integrity of the tablet so that it starts to degrade right then. Mm-hmm. And because that's the appropriate place for those nutrients to be made available for uptake into the body. Yeah. So that tool is a great tool. I don't know why there's companies that don't. I think what happens, there's a lot of companies that feel like they can test quality in. And that's a fallacy. That cannot be done.
Yeah, right.
You have to use the tools that we have employed to design quality into the product.
Yeah, but our quality goals are very high. Obviously, we sell our tablets all over the world, so we have, from a regulatory perspective, for purity, potency, and consistency, and that sort of thing. We have to reach some pretty tough standards. We haven't had any trouble doing that because often we show up at a regulatory agency in a foreign country to find out that they actually expect less of us than we expect of ourselves when it comes to quality control. So, but I can tell you that delivering, the type of high performance, high technology tablets that are present in NeoLife products is a really daunting task. And I wanted to take a little time here today to sort of share with the audience some of the things we go through. If you look at a NeoLife tablet, you would think, oh, it's just another tablet. Well, as I said in the beginning, that could not be further from the truth. It is a high technology nutrient delivery system that puts exactly the nutrients you need in exactly the forms you need them, just as they appear in the human food chain, to exact place in your gastrointestinal tract where they're going to provide the greatest benefit or the greatest bioavailability. And those sorts of differences are, I think, hard for people to see. It's not even easy really to talk about them because it's such a sophisticated technology. But from my perspective, having looked around and spent a lot of time in the industry, working in the Council for Responsible Nutrition and involved in other agencies and groups from time to time, and working in the sciences quite a bit, the standards that we apply, our own standards are much higher than the standards that you would generally find out there. And it's something that separates us from other companies, that we continue to define what I would call the leading edge of product technology, not only from the nutrient delivery perspective, but from in this case, the tableting technology perspective too. So Mark, it has been a pleasure. You and I could talk about this for hours and hours and hours more. I know when we were, having our earlier conversations, there's a lot to touch on. So, yeah. Yeah,
this is, I appreciate the chance to talk about something that I hardly ever get to talk very much about how these things get put together. Mm-hmm. I really enjoy this time, John. I know you and I have a lot of conversations about this, but I'm really happy to share it with some of the other folks as well as the NeoLife family. You did touch on the You said the word validation. Okay. And that's very important because all the processes and products are validated so that they produce the same tablet, the same formula as intended every single time. So what's in the bottle matches what's on the label every time, every tablet.
Right.
And I do want to also say, you talked about when you're out at meetings with the Council for Responsible Nutrition. Myself, I also attend different conferences, technical and scientific conferences. And we have people that will come up to us and say, NeoLife has the best products in the industry. And it's very rewarding. And the only reason why we can say that people say that and why we have achieved that high level of quality and performance is because we have a great quality system that challenges us with every project. And it employs when we're putting together a formula, it's not just the R&D team, but it's the quality team and it's our skilled production team that all work together that really make this NeoLife difference in the high NeoLife quality. And thanks, John. I really appreciate being able to chat with you today about this.
It's a pleasure, Mark. Like I said, we barely scratched the surface of tableting technology. So, maybe we can get together and talk about capsule technology or something like that later on.
Oh yeah.
The technology involved here is always amazing.
Yeah.
And to those of you who have hung with us here and listened to our conversation about the NeoLife difference in high technology tablets, I want to thank you all for spending the time. I want to point out that, the difference behind NeoLife products is, pretty obvious everywhere you look. It's not like we do anything easy. It's because of the criteria we have that we put in place, the demands that we put upon ourselves to make sure that our products contain what they need to contain and deliver what we promise they're going to deliver on the label. The sources of the raw materials, both on the bioactive side, the extraction from plants like we do with flavonoids and cruciferous and other compounds like that, to the choice for the ingredients that we use to make the tablet, to provide the integrity in the bottle, but the activity in the dynamic delivery system once it's consumed, are all big NeoLife differences. So I want to take a moment to thank you all for staying tuned here and listening in. And once again, to thank you, Mark, for sharing this with me. And it's been a real pleasure. Okay.
Thanks, John. It's been fun. Take care.
Yeah. See you down the road.